From Boston to San Francisco, Miami to Dallas. Lines, and more lines for COVID testing. There were the overnight waits for drive-through tests, the hours and hours wait for the walk-up test. And if you wanted to get an at-home test, good luck. At-home tests were in short supply, so you're waiting for them to get restocked. And we are years into the pandemic now. There's no "we're kinda new at this testing thing" excuse anymore. So how did the country fail the test of COVID testing this badly?
We've seen the strains on COVID testing since the start of the pandemic. And what's different this time, I think, why manufacturers and labs are not able to keep up with the demands is because it was the perfect storm.
People use the word perfect storm. It was, because it was right up around the holidays too, when a lot of people, for good reasons, wanted to get tested because they didn't want to be traveling when they're sick.
We went to the test at 9 p.m. We didn't leave till 4 a.m. There was people that ran out of gas. And people are fighting and honking.
So it was obvious we weren't prepared for this one. From the start, the US bungled our COVID testing. The CDC wanted everyone to use their test, no one else's could be used. The problem was the test didn't work, so we were playing catch up right from the beginning. Then came the variants, each more infectious than the last. Add on to that the reopening of our society and demand for testing skyrocketing. So how do we do better next time around? And there will be a next. I spoke with testing manufacturers, medical consultants, epidemiologists, and travelers to learn more about how we got here and how we can get better. Let's start with Andrea Stone. COVID testing is literally her business. Her company, COVID Consultants, helps people find COVID tests and navigate the sometimes tangled process of getting your results back. Omicron wasn't our first surge, not by far, so why was getting a test such a challenge?
Omicron being the most wildly contagious variant that we've seen yet, the timing when it was introduced right before the holidays when everybody was getting together, and screening requirements is a big one.
Next, I turn to Dr. Trepka, a professor and chair for FIU's Department of Epidemiology. She pointed to another flaw in our testing infrastructure.
So one of the things that happened with the Omicron is that some of the test kits, the rapid antigen test kits, didn't work well for it. But you as an individual consumer, that's really hard to figure out. Individual consumers should be able to easily find out which tests are going to give them the answers that they need to know with whatever variant is currently circulating. You shouldn't have to go through multiple pages on the FDA website to try to figure out which test is going to work.
So one issue with government-funded programs that we've seen, we're located in Denver, so I can speak to this market specifically, is that they're confined to government hours. So this recent Christmas Day and New Year's Day fell on a Saturday, which means that doctors' offices and most medical clinics and these government-funded testing sites were closed. So if you needed a PCR or an antigen test over the holidays, there was nowhere, you were out of luck. We were the only ones that were open, and there was nowhere where you could get one because they were simply not open. So that is one factor of these programs. They need to have some kind of 24-hour availability or access.
We're here, Tam Miami Park. We physically just made it into the park, and this is the fiasco of lines. We were outside since 9:55, and it's now 12:39, and we just made it into the park.
When I went on Amazon to order the tests, they were sold out. I went to CVS, they were sold out. Because technically, if I would have prepared myself, I could have had these tests at the house, and we could have just gone live on a computer with a representative from the testing company, and we could have gotten our test results at home within an hour.
It is now 3:54. In a minute, it'll be 6 hours that we're waiting. And we just now are pulling up to the tent where they swab your nose. 4 kiddos knocked out. And Tarita in and out of it, keeping me awake. But this is ridiculous.
Tara Menendez and her family were part of the millions of people trying to get tested during the holidays. Floridians could not find an at-home test when they needed it, and yet her home state had up to 1 million tests sitting in a warehouse where they were left to expire. The FDA has since extended the expiration date, and those tests are now being distributed. 1 million tests would have helped, but it's kind of a drop in a bucket compared to what was needed. And that introduces us to our next problem. Abbott, one of the leading producers of at-home test kits, reduced its staffing and production after Delta due to lower demand for testing. When Omicron hit, ramping up capacity quickly was a real challenge.
I think one lesson learned in terms of this entire pandemic is that we as a country, we need to have our own manufacturing capacity so that we can gear up and not depend on other places because they may be having production problems themselves. So I think that has to be a priority. The second issue, and I think maybe it's a fundamental one, is communication. And I think it's very hard to give out clear messages. And I think that we have lacked throughout this pandemic in terms of giving out clear messages.
I think the technology is quite good. There's always room for improvement, and I know a lot of companies are working on that. I think the testing strategies and the communication from the top levels could be a little bit better. For example, if you require COVID testing to attend a hockey game, for example, that means somebody who's perfectly healthy is taking a COVID test away from somebody who is sick and looking for testing, to diagnose their symptoms. And so if you require a COVID test to do absolutely everything, then you just have to make sure that there are enough available.
There was only 5 people doing tests. And I rolled down my window and I asked, why is there only 5 people here and this line is 5-6 hours long? And she said, the city was not prepared for this. They're not set up. They don't have enough people to work. And I thought that after 2 years, which goes back to your question, they should have been prepared for this.
On the national front, the Biden administration is set to get more tests in the hands of people who need them. They've already launched a website where you can order 4 free tests that will be delivered right to your door. Insurance companies are also now required to cover the cost of at-home tests. But even something as simple as that wasn't ready for launch. Many insurance companies said they didn't have a system in place for reimbursing people. Time will tell if we learn from our past mistakes. And getting testing right is a big part of getting our normal lives back.
Testing alone isn't going to solve this. Vaccination alone probably isn't going to solve it either. And masking alone won't. I mean, we need to use all the tools that are available to us because this really is a formidable virus and it's going to continue to be for some time.